Daily Cycles here with an update on July the 15th. It's 2 weeks since last time, and it will be 2 weeks into my next update. So let's have a look at what the markets did. Here's my 4-week cycle, and I drew some kind of a bullish scenario with a consolidation and then another breakout. However, this phase here does not look like a consolidation. It looks more like a topping phase. Indeed, it looks like one of my favorite formations that I call a 3 drive. You have 3 drives here, 1, 2, 3. I think you have variations of this that are called a Gartley or a butterfly. You know, if you draw these lines, you get something that looks like a butterfly. Here's a butterfly wing, and here. So this looks like a topping formation. I will come back to that. But first, let's have a look at some cycles. I was following 3 cycles of 16 weeks, which was looked like the dominant one. We have the quarterly cycle with a more dominant half-year cycle and a 10-week cycle. So here I have the 16-week cycle. We had a low here, and here, and here, and here, and a very bullish low there, a low here, a bit late low here, another bit late low, a low there. This one was a bit early, and here it gets messy. It looks like we have a low here, but there's a mid-cycle low here that was kind of unexpected from this cycle. And at the current point we are near the cycle high and should be looking for a cycle low early September. That was one cycle. Now the quarterly cycle. So we have a low here and here and here. This was very bullish, no real low. We have a low here and here, works nice, early low with a very early top, and then a bit early low there, and here, bit late low here, we have a low there, bit early here, and now it again gets messy. No real low here, but next low is late September. Also, we have the bigger half-year cycle around March and September. Here we have a low around March, around September, around March, around September, around March, around September, around March, and the next low around September. Right. So let's have a look at another cycle. So this here in green, well, here in red I have my 7-year cycle, but in green here I have the 40-week cycle, and within it a 20-week cycle. So we have a 20-week cycle, theoretical here, but the market low was there. Next low around here, a bit early, came there. Then we have a low here, came early there. This low is a bit messy. You know, we have this low. I have drawn this this triangle here because we have a low there, and both are candidates. So this was a low, this was a low, this was a bit late low. Here we have a low. This one was probably here a bit early. Here we have a low there, a bit early, and the next somewhere here around August, possibly September. I cannot see any low here yet. So again, this one also pointing to around September. The last cycle is a cycle that that worked very well, especially in Norway, going back 10-15 years. I'm still keeping track on it. It's a 25-week cycle, so it's very close to the 26-week cycle that I just showed with lows around March and September. So the theoretical cycle here, I've drawn the current point here. If we go back here, we see it was just ahead of a correction, just ahead of a correction, in the middle of a correction, just ahead of a correction, in the middle of a correction, just ahead, in the middle of a correction, just ahead of a correction. This was kind of bullish, so still a bit upside. That was just where the correction started. Here the correction was pretty much already over. So again, this one also pointing to a low around September. So we see it builds and builds, many things pointing to a low around September. We should also notice this is a new bull market, and I've drawn two comparisons that I think may be relevant from 66 and 1970. And we see these bull markets, they just trended up into testing the previous all-time high. We don't see the previous all-time high here, but they came close or broke the all-time high before they had a big consolidation phase. So this, it may be dangerous to look for some kind of a downside setup here, because market may just ignore all bearish setups until it has reached the all-time high. So if you look at here in red 1970, in this phase, trying to find a sell setup here, you just have one move down and then another new high. A sell setup? No, another high. So careful. Where's the top? We may have a low around September, but we could rally into late August first. Where was I? So yeah, it looks like a 3-drive topping formation. It may be a bullish setup. This may be a consolidation. Consolidating A, B, and C, and now we have a breakout. In very rare cases, that may be the case. So we could have a blow off here to the upside. But the higher odds is for this being a topping formation, a 3-drive top. And if we look at my momentum indicator here in yellow, we see it's very overbought, and we may stay in this overbought condition for a while before we get the pullback or the correction. And going back, we see here we stayed a while being overbought, but then we got the correction into the red line, which is the 50-day moving average. Here we see we also stayed a while before we broke the 50-day moving average. Here we were overbought for a while, briefly tested the 50-day moving average, getting a higher top and lower momentum, and then we had the COVID crash. Here we see we also had a quick test of the 50-day moving average, squeezing to a higher high, then again down. But here you see we were no longer overbought, so it was ready for another pop-up. Here again we see we stayed for a prolonged period being overbought before we tested and broke the 50-day moving average. And that's where we are now. We could continue being overbought for a while, but eventually we should test or even break the 50-day moving average. So I would not be bullish here until we have tested or broken the 50-day moving average. But where's the top? The top may be higher up, but it's not very good odds for hoping for much more upside here for a prolonged period. So if this is a new bull market, you should not be looking for short positions, but I would be cash and look for the next buying setup somewhere around the 50-day moving average. So I'll make another video, a second part here. See you in the next one.